My wife, 36 female, has always been a spontaneous and outgoing person. I'm the opposite. When we met in our 20s, there was an instant connection, and we both realized we inspired a lot of positive change in each other. She helped me come out of my shell. I helped her settle down and learn responsibility. All throughout our marriage, we balanced our differences by making compromises and communicating, etc. We loved each other very much, and we did whatever we could to keep our marriage issue-free. We have 2 kids together, a 16-year-old and a 12-year-old. Normally, we would put a little money aside every month to save up for a family vacation over the summer. I never had the opportunity to go to places like Disneyland, the Grand Canyon, or Niagara Falls growing up, so I wanted to make sure I could visit those places with my family. Last summer, I saved a significant amount of money to be able to take the entire family to Disney for a week, so we could enjoy some quality time together. However, our sons heard about this summer camp from one of the neighbors' kids who attended every year. It sounded like a lot of fun, and they practically begged my wife and me to let them go. After some convincing, we decided it would be best to let them go to the camp, and we would sacrifice the Disney money to let them go. The summer camp actually ended up being a little bit cheaper than what I put aside for Disney, so we had a little extra that we could spend on something else. Our dishwasher broke beyond repair a few months before the decision, so I was excited to potentially buy us a new one. However, Jen still wanted to go on vacation. I tried to convince her that the dishwasher would be the best option. She kept telling me that she needed some excitement or an escape. In the end, I helped her see the reason, and we bought a new dishwasher. The kids were both gone for a month at the camp. During the first week, it was relatively quiet at home. Jen and I didn't really even speak that much. I was slammed with work, and Jen volunteered at a lot of different places during the day. I started to notice that something was going on when she was coming back from the community center, where she volunteered way later than she normally did. I questioned her about it, but she just told me that bingo ran late because one of the older gentlemen threw a fit about someone cheating. At the time, I didn't think much of it because I trusted her, but it kept happening. One night while I was home and Jen was presumably out volunteering, I was scrolling through Facebook on my phone and saw a post from the community center, where she was supposed to be, saying they had to close early due to a burst pipe. The timestamp on the post was for the early afternoon, so I knew that if Jen had gone to the community center, she would have had to come back not long after. I was instantly very suspicious about why she was still supposedly at the community center. I texted her, asking when she planned on being home. She lied to me, telling me that bingo might run late once again. She was up to something, and I needed to find out what it was. I went to her computer and looked through some of her messages on Facebook and Instagram, searching for anything that might indicate who she was with or what she was doing. I didn't see anything suspicious there, but when I opened her emails, I found something alarming. She had dozens of emails from Tinder about new matches and messages from various men. My heart dropped thinking that she was using an app like that. I downloaded the app on my phone and used her email to try and log in. We were open with our password, so I thought that I might have a good chance of packing into her account, and to my luck I did. I was completely shocked when I looked through the messages. She had been messaging several men, setting up dates with them, and presumably sleeping with them. The dates on the messages corresponded to the dates when she told me she was out late at the community center. In some of the messages, they were even exchanging Snapchat usernames and things like that. I took some screenshots while I was still logged into her account, then I logged out of everything and tried to pretend like I didn't see what I did. If she was going to turn her back on our marriage so easily like that, I wasn't going to give her an out to try to explain her behavior away. By the time she got home, I was in bed pretending to be asleep so I wouldn't have to hear her lie to my face about where she was. After a shower, she climbed right into bed and pretended the same. I let my curiosity get the better of me, and while she was asleep, I snuck out of the room with her phone to view some of the Snapchats she had been sending. As I viewed it, I recorded what I was saying with my phone for my own evidence. She had been exchanging a lot of graphic pictures of herself with the men she was sleeping with. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst of it was when I found a message where she confessed to one of the men that she was married, and she was just looking for a little excitement in her life. He thought it was hot. If she wanted excitement so bad, I would give it to her. Maybe not in the way she hoped, though. I messaged all 3 of the men she had been messing around with and sent them all my phone numbers, telling them to text me instead. My wife had no idea I'd done that, and I'd been texting them in secret for days to prepare for my confrontation. As my wife, I invited all 3 of them to the community center under the guise of wanting to hook up with them. Still, my wife had no clue. It was a bingo night, so I knew it would be packed there, and all of her friends who volunteered at things like that with her would be in attendance. I told my wife to dress up because I was taking her out. She was reluctant at first, but I convinced her that it would be fun. She was surprised to see I'd taken her to the community center. She was even more surprised when we walked in, and all 3 of the guys she'd been cheating on me with were waiting in the lobby. They didn't know each other, so they weren't talking. But when they all saw my wife, they perked up and walked over to her. The one who knew about me lingered behind, but when I made eye contact with him, he decided to walk over. There was a huge confrontation. My wife turned and yelled at me for invading her privacy. 2 of the guys had no idea she was married and told her they never would have crossed that boundary had they known. Everyone in the community center was watching the argument. My wife stormed off and went back home, expecting me to follow so we could continue fighting there. But I had already made arrangements to stay with my brother after, so I went right there. I finally feel like I'm able to talk about this now because the divorce was just finalized last week. She and I have joint custody, but our sons have wanted to spend more time with me because they're angry at her for ruining our family. Even though I am angry with her too, I try to encourage them to spend more time with her. It's been hard to trust others enough to get back into the dating scene, but I'm going to start trying soon, so wish me luck. First of all, OP, I am so sorry to hear that your wife betrayed you in such a way. However, it almost sounds like she had been waiting for an excuse to act on her desires for quite some time. With the kids gone and the needing excitement excuse, she acted very quickly. She could have spoken to you and tried to figure out a way to add some spice into your lives to avoid betraying you. But she chose the immature, selfish way of handling the situation. I'm glad the divorce is finished and you're readying yourself to move on. Hopefully, you can find happiness with another person. Now let's move on to our next story. All of the emotions for this are still so raw, so this might be somewhat jumbled to read. But I recently discovered that my wife of 6 years has been cheating on me for a while with my so-called best friend. To begin with, my wife and I always had a happy marriage, so I was blindsided when I found out what had been going on. She and I had a lot in common. We did almost everything together, and we enjoyed ourselves while doing it. I have known my best friend since my freshman year of college. It was a classic friendship story. He was my first-year roommate, and ever since then, we have been inseparable. Honestly, before I met my wife, he was the most important person in my life. I was estranged from most of my family, and when I graduated college, I had a falling out with my parents, and I haven't spoken to them in years. My wife and best friend always got along. That was one of the things that I loved so much about my wife. She could get along with just about anybody without any problems. I never noticed any flirting or touching or anything like that before with them. Now I must have just been entirely oblivious leading up until how I found out because I was completely blindsided. Sometimes I wonder if I only found out because of sheer dumb luck, or if there was perhaps some force trying to show me all along. One Saturday, my wife got called into the office to help troubleshoot some problems with some staff, and she happened to forget her phone. I was in my house with my friend. We were just going to play some video games and chill until my wife got back. She ended up calling me from her work to ask me if I could look for her phone because she wasn't sure if she left it there or if she lost it somewhere else. While I was on the phone with her, I asked my friend to call her number. He dialed it, and we both walked around the apartment listening for it to see if we could find it. I was, of course, the one to find it. Before I could yell for him to hang up the phone because I had it, I noticed that the number wasn't saved under his name. It was saved under a woman's name with the word work in parentheses behind it. I thought that was strange, but it wasn't necessarily damning evidence, though I was too curious as to why that was the case to ignore it. I hung up the phone yelling to my friend that I found it and telling my wife that it was there before hanging up the phone with her. I opened their text messages and saw dozens of messages between them. Some of them were romantic, telling each other that they loved each other. Some were explicitly detailing things they wanted to do to each other when they had the next chance, and they even exchanged some pictures. I didn't know what to do. The two people who I cared about most in this entire world had gone behind my back and stabbed me in it. It felt like the world was closing in around me. I've never been a confrontational person, so I didn't want to address my friend about it at the time. I ended up telling him that we should cut our video game session early so I could run the phone to my wife. When he left, I almost completely lost control of myself. I had to fight the urge to scream and break everything in my entire house. After I composed myself, I realized I needed to go through and see when it all started. Apparently, it had been going on for 2 years off and on. It all started when my wife messaged him and told him that if I hadn't been in the picture, she probably would have ended up with him. I'd never felt more broken in my entire life. When I looked at the date of that message, I realized that it was almost exactly 2 years since it was sent. I realized it was almost their anniversary. An idea suddenly hit me, and I felt it would be the best way to confront them both. We were all a part of one big friend group, so I knew exposing them to our friends would be what hurt them the most. I was hurt enough at the time that revenge was all I thought about. So, I planned a dinner party for what I perceived to be their anniversary. I didn't tell my wife or best friend at the time what it was about, but they were both excited about the party. When the day came, most of our friends made it to our house, bringing bottles of wine and dishes to share with everyone. We made it through dinner, but when dessert came, I had a very special cake brought out for both my wife and friend. Right in the center of the cake were the words "Happy Anniversary," then both of their names. Some of our friends awkwardly laughed and looked around each other, but some of them got what I was doing right away and looked between them with disgust. My wife and friend tried to play it off like they didn't know what was going on, but it was clear that they were trying to save face. I pulled out my phone and read a speech that I prepared for them. I recounted when I first introduced her to my friend and how much their friendship meant to me, and I recited some of the quotes from their text messages. At the end, I said that I wanted a divorce. They both left together, trying to run away from all of the questions our friends were asking them. When they were gone, there was a mixed review of how I handled the situation amongst our friends. Some of them thought that I was being immature, and I should have spoken to them one-on-one, but some of them agreed with how I acted. They said that they deserved to know that people whom they thought were their friends were liars and cheaters. We're going through the divorce proceedings right now, and it's clear that my wife and former best friend are going to try and pursue something together. However, they are completely alone. None of my friends want anything to do with them for how they betrayed me. I just hope that what they did was worth it for them in the end. OP, I want to offer my condolences. I can't imagine how hurtful it was for your wife to betray you, especially not with your best friend. It might take you some time to accept this, but people who would do that to you were never really there for you to begin with. I'm glad that your other friends are sticking by you during all of this. It definitely sounds like you need a good, reliable group of people around you to help support you as you heal from this massive betrayal. I wish you all the best. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. If there is a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me. Take care.